Hi guys, and welcome back to another episode of Learning Mathematics in preparation for your CSEC exams. So I am your host, Ms Clarke, and I will be your teacher here on Ms Clarke's Math Space. So in today's lesson, we are going to dive right into algebra substitution. So you're going to be able to evaluate expressions, algebraic expression using substitution. All right, but what does substitution mean? So we need to have an understanding. So we know that in game of sports, you would substitute one player for another player, which just simply means that you are replacing, or even in terms of cooking, in terms of you're substituting butter for margarine. So it's just a replacement. That is more or less what substitution is in layman terms or in everyday activities. In algebra, when they say to evaluate an algebraic expression, it means to replace or substitute the variables in the expression. So it would be a letter that you're going to replace with a numeric value. So say for example, we have codes. So let me break it down. So take for example, so you're in class, you're in a setting, and you know that they have a code for a teacher to let people know that, hey, Miss is coming. So you might say, big bird alert, but you know that big bird would refer to a particular teacher. So you'd know, hey, you need to straighten up and you need to organize yourself. Similarly, you're in maths, we might have a code. So you might have a banana costs $2. So instead of saying banana, we could say, we could now find the value of having 3 bananas. So 3 bananas is the equivalent of 3 multiplied by 1 banana, which is $2. So that'll be 3 by 2, so $6 will be for the value of those bananas. Yes, I know these are some random on the spot examples, but I hope that you're able to apply it. So to simplify, to make smaller the result in numerical expression by using BODMAS. So that's exactly what we did there. So in terms of 3b, which means 3 multiplied by b, the value of b is 2. So that's how we end up getting 3 bananas costing $6. And the end result is a numerical value alone, which is just 6. All right, so I hope that that explains what I just did. So let me give you it in maths language. So a question in an exam paper might be, evaluate 4x plus 1 if x is equal to 2. So if x is equal to 2, so that means that we're going to be substituting x or replacing x with the value of 2. So let's look at the first one here. 4x plus 1, instead of x, we are replacing this x here with the number 2 because x is now have a value of 2. So and then becoming 4 multiplied by 2. So follow the cursor and then you add in 1. We know that 4 multiplied by 2 is 8. So we're going to have 8 plus 1, which is 9. So when we evaluate 4x plus 1 when x is equal to 2, the answer will be 9. Similarly, if we have the example of 4x plus 1 when x is equal to negative 5. So you notice where our directed numbers lesson come into hand here, where we're now able to substitute a negative number into an algebraic expression. So 4x would be 4 multiplied by x. So that means it will be 4 multiplied by negative 5. And we remember our rules for multiplying positive and negative numbers. We know that it would yield a negative result. So 4 times negative 5 is going to be negative 20. And now we add in 1. And if we remember our rules, we would know that when you're adding directed numbers with 2 different signs, with a positive sign and a negative sign, you find the difference between the 2 numbers. Difference between 20 and 1 is 19. And then you take the sign of the absolute value. So the sign of the bigger number. So the sign of the bigger number is 20. The sign corresponding to that is negative. So that's how we get negative 19. Feel free to pause if you don't understand these directed numbers and head on over to that directed numbers video that I did so that I could explain it to you step by step in terms of the rules for addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division of directed numbers. So let's see if we can do this exercise. A few simple algebraic expressions that we want to evaluate for A equals to 5. So just say that A represents an apple and the cost of an apple is 5. So if we have 3 apples would be 3 multiplied by A, which is 3 multiplied by 5. So that apple, those 3 apples would be $15. So let's see if you all could do this. You can pause the video now and try them out. When you finish, you can unpause and then I will continue the solutions. And we are back. So let's see if we can go through these solutions here. So I was explaining the first one, 3A. All right, 3A means 3 multiplied by A, and A is 5. So we're going to replace A with the number 5. So it's going to be 3 times A, 3 times 5, which we know is 15. All right, and these are the other solutions. We have A plus 5. The value of A is 5, so that becomes 5 plus 5, which we know is 10. Third example, we have 4 take away 2A. So we're going to write back the 4, the take away sign, and where we see A, we're now going to replace it with 5. So you see I have my 5 in blue there, so it becomes 5 in brackets. And we know following the rules of BODMAS, we need to work out the brackets now. So it's going to be 2 by 5. 2 multiplied by 5 is 10. So it becomes 4 minus 10. And using our rules of directed numbers, we know that the resulting answer will be negative 6. All right. Next question. We have 6A take away 10. We're replacing the A with the number 5. So it becomes 6 multiplied by A, which is 6 multiplied by 5. And then you take away 10. 6 by 5 is 30. 30 minus 10 is 20. So our answer is 20. So put your 6. And you can make your corrections if you need to as well, because we need to make sure we're building on a foundation, we're building on a platform, and we need to make sure that we understand so that we could progress properly. All right. Our next example, we have 4A divided by 2. 4A is 4 multiplied by A, which is 4 multiplied by 5, and then we divide it by 2. 4 by 5 is 20, and then you have to divide by 2. 20 divided by 2 is 10. Our second to last example, we have A squared. When we square, that means you're multiplying whatever it is by itself. So A squared is the same as saying A multiplied by A. X squared would be X multiplied by X. So we're replacing the A with 5. So A squared is the equivalent of saying 5 squared. And 5 squared means 5 multiplied by 5. And we know that 5 by 5 is 25. So on a calculator, you would see that it have an X squared component. So you can simply write 5 and then square the function square and you get your answer 25. Or you can manually type 5 multiplied by 5 and get your answer 25. Our last example in this exercise, we have 3A squared. And if you'll remember, I gave you all a tip. And the tip that I gave you all is to do powers first, then multiply. So that is something to remember in maths, especially when you're evaluating stuff, that you always do powers first and then multiply. All right? So we have 3A squared. That means you'll be dealing with the A squared component first. Once you evaluate what A squared is, then you would multiply by 3. So let's go through it. 3A squared is the same as saying 3 multiplied by A, which is 5 squared. We're now squaring 5. 5 squared means 5 multiplied by 5, which we know is 25. And then you do your multiplication second after it is squaring. So it'll be 3 multiplied by 25, which is 75. All right, so look over these solutions, and I really hope that you're getting it. More practice would be given in terms of the worksheets that I would provide on the Google Classroom, so you could look out for that as well. So let's do a different example. And in this example, we see that it have more than one letter, more than one term that we want to be able to evaluate. We have X, we have Y, we have Z. So we have a value for X, a value for Y, and a value for Z. And we all doing it together in a sum. So evaluate 4xy, take away, open bracket, x minus y, close bracket, plus z. If x is equal to 5, y is equal to -2, and z is equal to 17. So let's take it up piece by piece. So I would have noticed that I use colors to help us differentiate the terms, the variables. So x is red, y is blue, and z is yellow. And we're doing this so that when we see the substitution, it's easier for us to identify. So when we write any answer, you write back the same question, and now we actually do the substituting or the replacing of the letters with the corresponding numerical value. So we know that x is 5, which is red, and y is -2. So 4xy, which means 4 multiplied by x multiplied by y, would become 4 multiplied by 5 multiplied by -2. Right? So we have our colors to help us follow along. And we bring down our minus sign. So follow the cursor, bring down the minus sign. Then we have our open bracket, x minus y. X is 5 and y is -2. So be 5 minus y, which is minus -2. So we have to be careful here. So that's why we have two sets of brackets. We have the square brackets and the curved brackets to help us. And then we bring down our plus sign and we bring down z. You know that the value of z is 17, so it becomes 17, which is in yellow there. And that is the substitution part of it, where we actually substitute. Now we're going to evaluate it, which means we now need to continue to simplify the answer. So 4 multiplied by 5 multiplied by -2, when we plug that in on our calculator, we're going to get -40, or if you're doing it using the rules of directed numbers multiplication, you would get the same -40. You bring down your minus sign. All right, so you see you bring down the minus sign, and now we evaluate what is inside the bracket. We have 5 minus -2. Minus sign minus is going to become a plus. You're going to have 5 plus 2, which is 7. So that's in the calculator, so you would get 7 straight there as well. And then you bring down your plus sign, then you bring down your 17. So now we end up with -40 minus 7 plus 17. If you want, we could plug that straight in and you get your answer straight, which would be -30. Or if we don't have our calculator, we break it down. -40 minus 7 would be -47. -47 plus 17 would give us -30. So I took my time in terms of going through it. So I'm just going to allow you to pause and see how I would have grouped it and use the colors. The red denoted for X, the blue denoted for Y, and the Z denoted with yellow. And see if you can see how we did the substitution and then how we eventually simplified and evaluated this algebraic expression. All right. So now that we have that example, I want us to do these few questions. So this is the example. Now we have these exercises to do. I'll give you all a moment to pause the video so that you could attempt it. Here we have A is equal to 5, B is equal to 2, C is equal to -1, and D is equal to 3. So we're going to substitute these values into each one of those algebraic expressions. And we are going now. So thank you for taking time to pause the video so that you could have done this exercise for yourself. And now we want to go through the solutions of each one of these algebraic expressions in terms of evaluating them. The A equal to 5, B equal to 2, C equal to -1, and D equal to 3. The first one, we have 8, take away B. The value of B is 2. So wherever we see B, replace it with 2. So it becomes 8 minus 2, which is 6. Our second example is 3D plus 2. So you're going to be replacing D with the value of 3 because D is equal to 3. So 3D is 3 multiplied by D. So we end up having 3 multiplied by 3. And then you add 2. 3 by 3 is 9. And then you add 2. 9 and 2 is 11. So our answer is 11. Moving on to the third example, we have A plus 2B plus 3C. All right, the value of A is 5, the value of B is 2, and the value of C is -1. So we're going to put them in correspondingly. So you notice that it's highlighted in the green here. So you see where the substitution goes there. All right, so it becomes 5 plus 2 times 2 plus 3 times -1. And then we simplify these things. So we're working on the brackets first in terms of multiplication. 2 by 2 is 4, and 3 by -1 is -3. So you end up with 5 plus 4 plus -3. And when we put that in our calculator, we're going to end up getting 6. 5 plus 4 is 9, 9 minus 3 is 6. All right. The fourth question in exercise 2. We have A, open bracket, B plus C, close bracket. So we're going to substitute the value of A, which is 5, open bracket, B, which is 2, and now we're adding C, which is -1. So then we have 2 sets of brackets, so we want to work out the inner brackets first. So we're dealing with 2 plus -1. 2 plus -1 is the same as saying 2 minus 1. And we know that 2 minus 1 is 1. So now we would end up having 5 multiplied by the brackets, 5 multiplied by 1, and our answer will be 5. I really hope that you all are following and going through. If not, feel free to send a message, reach out to me, and I'll be able to clarify it more for you. All right, so going on to the fifth one, we have AD minus BD. We know that AD means A multiplied by D, and BD means B multiplied by D. The value for A is 5, the value for B is 2, the value for C is -1, the value for D is 3. So we're going to substitute them where we see the corresponding letters. So AD would be A multiplied by D, which is 5 multiplied by 3. Then we're taking away BD, which is 2 multiplied by 3. We work it out, and we end up having 5 multiplied by 3 being 15. And this is so embarrassing, honestly. I should have really looked over my solution. So 5 by 3 is 15, and then 2 by 3 is 6. So then it's going to become 15 minus 6, and 15 minus 6 is 9. So this answer should be 9. My apologies for this human error. All right, and we have the second to last example here. We have A squared B. So remember, when we're dealing with this, remember we always deal with the squaring first, or the powers first, and then we do regular multiplication after, right? So remember this step. So we have A squared B. A is 5, so A squared would be 5 squared, and then you're multiplying by B, which is 2. 5 squared is 25. 25 times 2 is 50. All right? And our last question here in exercise 2 is the square root of 5AB squared. So we are here. So we want to work out everything inside of the square root side. So we're going to simplify that first before you find the square roots. So we have A being 5, B being 2. So you're going to have that substitution here that we see. So be 5 multiplied by 5 multiplied by 2 squared. 5 by 5 multiplied by 2 squared. Remember, we deal with these squares first. So 2 squared is the same as saying 2 multiplied by 2, which is 4. And we end up having 5 multiplied by 5 multiplied by 4, which is 100. And now we find the square root of 100. And we know that that is 10. Technically, it's plus or minus 10, but you can simply put 10 for the purpose of this exercise. All right, so I really hope that you all are following along with substitution in terms of evaluating algebraic expression. So today's class is very short, and I just wanted to let you all have a solid understanding. So I really took my time and break it up, as well as to remind you all that you all are intelligent, you all are beautiful, and you all will achieve excellence. So have a great day, and stay tuned for more classes and more videos that will be posted on my YouTube channel. Take care.